Welcome to Military Spouse World 1-to-1, a weekday podcast featuring a military family shaker and mover, helping you navigate this amazing chapter in life. Here's your host, Dave Etter.
On this episode of Spouse World 1-to-1, we meet Dr. Ingrid Herrera-Yee, a clinical psychologist and an amazing military spouse. Good morning, Dr. Ingrid.
Hey, good morning.
What is the best way to address you, since you are a full-fledged psychiatrist?
I'm a psychologist, but yes, just call me Ingrid.
Just call you Ingrid?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Well, I like Dr. Ingrid. I like Dr. Yee. I like Dr. Herrera-Yee. I like it all.
Well, Dr. Ingrid sounds a little more informal, I guess. So out of those, that's my preference.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a clinical and research psychologist, which means I can see patients. So I can see people around the trauma issues, family issues, those kinds of things are my specialty. I also specialize in kids. The research side is what I do presently most of the time. And that's doing, psychological, social psychology type research. We have a question, we want it answered, we do some research around it.
And since you're a doctor, a full-fledged psychologist, does that mean we can tell you things and you can't be forced to divulge what we say?
That is correct. I am a vault.
Deepest, darkest, and we're safe.
Oh, yeah.
I need that in my life. You founded the MSBHC, Military Spouse Behavioral Health Clinicians. Tell me a bit about that organization.
Sure. I founded that back in 2012. Reason being, I was a new psychologist. I had a lot of colleagues in the field of psychology and mental health, but they weren't military spouses, so they didn't get the fact that, I was always stressing about jobs because a year and a half, 2 years, I was gone. They didn't have the difficulties I had trying to find employment, being completely underemployed all the time,
right?
Even with my doctorate. And I had military spouse friends, but I didn't know anyone who was in the same field as I was. I had great supports, but none of them really completely got the predicament that I found myself in. And I knew that I wasn't alone. There was no way I was the only one. So I founded this small network. In October, it'll be 5 years, October 2012. And it really just started out as a Facebook group, just, wanting to find other military spouses in the mental health field so that we could connect, share resources, information, share any job postings that we might have, and just be able to vent.
Wow,
talk about how hard it is, how we have these degrees and we can't get a job, so we're taking whatever we can. Just having this group of military spouses who get it, who can relate. So that's how it started. And we had, at the beginning, I think we had like 50-something people in the network.
Like one per state.
Yeah, that happened really quickly. Kind of took me aback, so I was like, whoa, okay, I've hit on something. I grew it into more of an informal organization. Now it's up for 501c3. It's grown to almost 2,000 military spouses nationwide, actually worldwide, because we have a lot of spouses of CONUS as well.
Right. It's
grown from, hey, I'm trying to find my tribe, to now we have a huge tribe.
Wow.
Yep.
Why does somebody become a behavioral health clinician? There's got to be a motivation as to why you would want to do this.
Absolutely. Well, for me, and I can speak about some of our members who have reached out to me, it's about wanting to give back to our military community. I remember distinctly when I decided I wanted to help our community specifically, because I'd already been doing work in the civilian world. I was sitting at my doctor's office. I was just there for a regular checkup, and I was watching the news. They always have like CNN on. Mm-hmm. Seeing that statistic that really, really hit me to the core, that our service members were dying by suicide at a greater rate than they were actually being killed in action in Afghanistan and Iraq. It just blew me away. I was in tears. I was in tears in this waiting room. I just decided right then and there I had to do something about this. And that's when I decided to start working with the military community. But for me, starting to work as a behavioral health clinician, it's something I just knew early on. I always wanted to help people. This was the best way that I could find for myself to help. But the majority of our military spouse clinicians, they join because they want to help our own community, because they see the pain, they see the suffering, they see the loss, the grief, they see opportunities to support and to help, and this is why.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you focus on children as well. Children's mental health in the military arena, how is that different than just, say a neighborhood?
It's really different because our kids, they go through so much. With the PCS moves, it's hard for us. It's 10 million times harder for them. They they go through a lot. I know a lot of our kids go through bullying, for example, because they're always the new kid.
Don't they end up with other military kids as well? Is bullying amongst military children more difficult than, say, just in a new school?
Well, sometimes they end up in a military school. Sometimes they don't. Just being the new kid overall, you can have those types of experiences, and sadly it does happen for a lot of our kids. But on the bright side, our kids are highly resilient. They're very, very good at reading cues in terms of how to adapt to new situations, because that's all they do with all the moves. So a lot of the work that I used to do, right now I'm just doing research, but was focused on our kids, helping them become more, well, they don't need a lot of help with becoming more resilient, but helping them when they are having a hard time. And sadly, there's a shortage nationwide of, and this is not just in the military side, but civilian as well, there's a shortage of providers for our kids. So that's something that our military spouses can help with. And that's sort of the biggest frustration of the military spouses in my organization, is that we have the training, we have the vetting, we have the license, we have everything, but we're still finding it hard to get employed and working with our military community.
Right. Is word of mouth something that is helpful for you guys?
Absolutely.
Well, we're doing some good word of mouth here, because this podcast is very popular, and so I think a lot more people will be aware of the MSBHC. You said you're on Facebook and you have your own website.
That's correct. Yep. On Facebook, we have a public page where we share a lot of articles that are relevant to the military community and to the mental health community. So we have both. We also have a closed Facebook group for military spouses who are either already in the mental health field or those who are curious or interested in getting started in the field. Because we have groups for social workers, for marriage and family therapists, for counselors, for psychologists, psychiatrists, for really everyone has a community within that space. We share employment information, resources. We're there for each other. It's a family. It really is. Because we've all been there, done that, and we support each other that way. So that Facebook group is closed. It's only for military spouses, but we also welcome veteran spouses, military girlfriends, fiancés, ex-spouses, because that happens, and they're also completely welcome. So even though it says military spouse behavioral health clinicians, all of them are welcome there, and we support each other. And so that's the closed Facebook group. The website itself is where we share a lot of the other information, and we have our Twitter feed. We have blogs there that our members post with a lot of information. We have resources there. The website's also a way to connect with the DOD and the VA so that they know that we're here.
Nice.
We're ready to help our community.
I know everybody wants me to ask this question. The recent fun that you had at the White House with your son and the Vice President, Mike Pence.
Yes.
In a nutshell, Ingrid's son is autistic, and he's very high functioning because he's receiving the right kind of treatments, and he's a great kid. Vice President Pence made a broad gesturing motion and happened to brush her son's face. Her son knew that that's something that you need to let somebody know that they made a mistake, and to go ahead and procure an apology or some sort of reproach, whatever. And he did it very respectfully. News media took off with it something horrible. The question I know everybody wants to ask you is, as a psychological clinician, have you written a paper on this, on being able for people to understand and recognize how to work with autistic kids and how to respond to negative events in the media?
I have not. Though people have been saying to me that when they saw me and my response on CNN, I couldn't watch it because I just can't watch myself.
I watched it, but I remember talking to you just prior to you going on and, giving you some pointers and things like that, which I don't know came of any use.
It all did, absolutely. Inside, I was nervous, but I knew that I needed to get my point across, not just for my son, but for all children. And not just for autistic kids or military kids, but all children, that it is not okay to use them as an example in, this worldwide media. It was wrong, and I needed to let them know that, but in a respectful way. way because obviously if I had gone any other way, the apology would not have happened. It would have just been more fodder for all that negative news cycles that are out there. I was not going to do that because I really needed to speak for not just my son, but all children in that. It really became a point for me where I could educate the public on kids with autism and what they look like and how they act and how much work was behind him asking that question or asking for that apology because he was nonverbal 5 years ago. It took him a long time to get to the point where he can have conversations, and what he is taught is that reciprocal, that relationship where you apologize or you ask other people for apology because that's the right thing to do. So there was nothing malicious in there.
Anybody who watches the uncut footage, Vice President Pence reached down there and said, oh, you're right. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? And gave him a hug.
Exactly. It was all fine, both sides.
People don't want to see that.
No.
Do you think there's anything else we need to cover or talk about?
I just want to really quickly say what I do, my work is all around mental health. So I encourage everyone to, and I'm not saying go to my website, I'm just saying if there's something going on in your life, reach out for help because there's always someone, even if it's just friends at first or family, someone who can be, a support for you. Please do so. It's so important. We want you sticking around.
Absolutely. One of my favorite mantras is you're never alone unless you absolutely force yourself.
Absolutely. There's always someone out there who wants to listen. Hey, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here.
Thank you, Ingrid, for joining us on Spouse World 1-to-1. It's been a pleasure.
Same here, Dave. Take care.
You bet. See ya. Do you like Spouse World 1-to-1? Want to support the efforts to bring interesting and inspiring military spouses into the spotlight? Then go to patreon.com/spouseworld and become a patron. It's a great way to spread the love.
Military Spouse World 1-to-1 is a BDE Productions podcast. The views and opinions of the host or any of the guests are not that of BDE Productions or sponsors. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to Spouse World 1-to-1.